So when the Great Toilet Paper Crisis kicked off, they went out in front of San Francisco City Hall, making a big show about how caring they are. You're looking at an actual picture of it, and they spray painted squares all over the place that were 6 feet apart to, quote, keep everyone safe. They painted 260 squares on the ground, spaces for 260 tents, at a cost of $18.2 million. And they didn't even provide the effing tents. Do these look like brand new tents to you here? No. And this scheme worked so great that afterwards, the department is now asking the city for another $15 million for a similar number of tents, which amounts to about $57,000 per square on the ground for a tent not included. The original round was about $60,000 per square, which is about twice the median cost of a one-bedroom apartment in one of the most expensive real estate areas in the country.
What's up, guys? We're going to look at a clip from probably my favorite YouTube channel right now, which is Static in the Attic. Now, you won't find sensational interviews or outrageous sound bites on Static's channel, but what you will find is a really unique and insightful perspective on not just a lot of current events, but most of the consensus narratives regarding world history in general. Static will present really radical interpretations of historical events that are going to seem pretty crazy at first, but you'll find if you sit through his videos that he's got this system of logic that's internally consistent and will likely have you questioning some of your most deeply held beliefs about the nature of history and even reality after a while. It's for those reasons probably that Static has such a cult following, but if you enjoy my reaction to his material today, then you're welcome for the introduction. This guy really is a gem of the internet, and you won't find him on your news feed. You're going to have to search his channel out on your own. So I'll leave a link to his channel in the description below. In this video, he's not getting into anything too crazy. He's going to just start off talking about just some general thoughts on corruption, and he's going to touch base on the Minnesota situation with the ICE officer, and then he's going to get into Ian Carroll and Candace Owens a little bit at the end. So just kind of a good topical potpourri in this reaction video to Static in the Attic. With that being said, let's get into it, and I hope you enjoy the content.
This is the Lake Pontchartrain Causeway. It stretches 24 miles across Louisiana, and in 1956, it cost $46 million on the high side. We'll go with that. In today's money, that's about $548 million. So $500 million to go 24 miles across water here, and 10 times as much to do 2 miles of bridge right here. And yeah, I understand that there are different engineering concerns, but actually about 10 miles to the south here is the San Mateo Bridge that is built just like the Lake Pontchartrain Causeway. But anyway, 10 times over budget, 10 years too late, and they had a big opening ceremony patting each other on the back for doing a great job. That was all built spending taxpayer money. Now, about 260,000 vehicles a day cross that bridge at $8 a piece for the toll, or $8.50. That is $2.2 million a day, or about $800 million a year. And then in the city, they have 27,000 parking meters, and we'll just say 8 hours a day at $8 an hour average. That's $1.7 million per day. And then they also have the highest housing taxes in the country. This is just ridiculous. This city is about 7 miles wide, 12 miles long. They bring in almost $2 billion just off of tolls and parking. Another $4.2 billion in property taxes, and then they're running a budget deficit of about $1 billion a year. They can't manage off of $6 billion, which I'm sure there's a lot more than just those three things that I mentioned. The entire state of Arkansas brings in about $2.7 billion, and this city is getting twice that just off toll roads, parking meters, and property taxes. And this is apparently how every sanctuary city is being run. Chicago has another $1 billion deficit as well. This is just the evolution of the Cloward-Piven strategy. Utilize militant anti-poverty groups to facilitate a political crisis by overloading the welfare system via an increase in welfare claims. This was written in, I think, 1967. It's evolved to use noobs coming in to facilitate the redistribution of wealth. The people running all this are just a special kind of loser. A lot of them are crooked, but I'd say the majority are true blues, like Ma'am Damney's girl here, man, however you say his name. But when you've got people this mentally dysfunctional, you don't even have to bribe them. She brags about being a sellout and traitor to her own kind. She can't wait to impoverish the white middle class. In her twisted brain, that somehow helps everybody else. Then when asked about her mother's $1.4 million Craftsman home, she bursts into tears and runs inside. So what do you do when the people are just too dumb to save themselves? Because in San Francisco, they'll keep voting blue no matter who, no matter what. The Oakland mayor got indicted last year for bribes, mail fraud, wire fraud, and other illegal practices to manipulate and corruptly influence the levers of local government. They must be one of the dumbest people in the world to get busted for corruption in the most corrupt area in the country. Then at the state level, aside from things like not keeping any water in the reservoirs and LA now being a pile of rubble, there's the high-speed rail project that's been going for, 30 years now or something, and it is soaring to over 128 to 135 billion, facing significant delays and a massive funding gap. I'd say so. These are numbers that none of us can truly comprehend. Yeah, we know the word billion, but a complicated urban freeway system that's pretty much just solid bridges elevated is about $60 million per mile. So that $135 billion that they've spent divided by $60 million per mile, you could have put 2,250 miles of elevated freeway all the way across the country for that price. And how much of this high-speed rail has been accomplished? None. Zero. You can't fix this from within. The entire system needs to be changed out. And every blue area here across the country is using the same Cloward Piven, crash the economy, spend as much as you can strategy, and it's perfectly legal. There's no laws against spending too much. You can't arrest somebody for being a bad manager. But it would seem to me when you put it all together and realize that they're all part of the same party, then there should be some type of conspiratorial sedition or treason going on. And I'm to the point where I say, send in the boots. Let them all scream and cry like little children, and that's fine.
So there's a few points to get into here. To start off, the kind of fraud and corruption that he's discussing in the California system, there's this fundamental principle that once someone can take your money without your consent, they're pretty much never going to stop. So it's really not a matter of if, but a matter of when. They're just going to take everything they can from you. And the only way that that stops is when you choose to water the tree of liberty, if you will. Now, looking at the tolls and all the money that California collects every single day from its citizens just for using their own property, it reminds me of this situation in Chicago in 2008. The city of Chicago enters a 75-year lease agreement, and they sell the rights to collect the revenue from 36,000 parking meters to a private investor group for a one-time payment of $1.15 billion. The investor group, it's known as Chicago Parking Meters, and Morgan Stanley is the majority owner, but one of the other investors in that is the United Arab Emirates. So every time you pay a parking meter in Chicago, you are paying rent to use your own property because you are the public and that is public property, and your rental payments are going to foreign investors. You shouldn't be paying rent at all. There shouldn't be parking meters at all because it's your own property already. You're paying rent to use your own property. So just fundamentally, we're already off on the wrong foot. It's already fraudulent right from the ground floor. And you can see here, it's just another mechanism used to tax you without really calling it a tax. It's just a sneaky way to tax you. And these are everywhere, from your auto registration to speeding tickets to registering your dog with the town hall, all the way down to the fees that you pay to pay these fees as well. The processing fees, the convenience fees, everything. They're all just hidden taxes. But we didn't even get to the best parts yet with the parking meter fiasco. Those guys, that investment group, they made back their money in like the first 10 years. So that's 65 years of just pure profit for them. And then the mayor, who helped negotiate that deal. He went and worked for the law firm that I believe was negotiating on behalf of the city. But nonetheless, that law firm penned a bunch of sweetheart conditions that helped the investment group. So if they need to do any construction and take meters down, the investment group is getting paid no matter what. There's all kinds of little details like this. And I'm guessing that if you go ahead and do an early life check on Morgan Stanley, you're going to find the usual suspects. On that same note, we might want to do an early life check on the law firm that the mayor worked for, which would be Catton, Muchin, Rosenman. Get an early life check on those guys. I'm guessing we're going to find all the same suspects. Long story long, the story that I just told you and the situation in California that Static was talking about, that's everywhere. That is the rule and that is not the exception. So that's where all your money goes. That's why your life is so difficult to live. It's why you can never get ahead. It's because every turn you make, every corner you round, someone is reaching into your pocket because they know they can do it and get away with it with no consequences. And the more you dig around and look through all of the obfuscation and shell companies and institutional obscurities that hide who the actual human beings are that are receiving this money on the far end, the more you look through that, the more you'll wind up finding all the same characters, and most of them have dual citizenship with our greatest ally.
But I'm to the point now where I see exactly why 100 years ago they gave dictatorial powers to the Austrian painter. They were tearing that society apart exactly the same as they are with ours, only they were much further down the line. I mean, they were starving, economy worthless. There was rampant substance abuse and alcoholism, legalized prostitution, and just all-around scumbaggery. The Students' Union wrote the 12th Thesis, which is a knockoff of Martin Luther's 95 Thesis. And among other things, we want to eradicate lies, we want to denounce treason, we want institutions of discipline and political education for us, the students, not mindlessness. We demand of our students the desire and capability to overcome great intellectualism and the resulting liberal decay in our spirit. Yeah, guys, we need truly radical change. We have to change out all of the university professors. I can understand saving the university system, but we have to take it back. And we have to let that entire generation of mind-virused people just fade off into the distance. We demand the selection of students and professors in accordance with their reliability and commitment to our people, to the spirit of our people. If they don't love America and what America stands for, then they've got no freaking business teaching in the universities that represent this country. I mean, do you really think Russia would allow some little lefty from America to come over there and start teaching a class in their university about how to disrupt their entire way of life and completely destroy their morale, to tell them that you are the problem with everything in the world? Hell no, they'd probably make an example out of them out on a lamppost. And that's what we need to start doing. Sorry, we're to that point.
So those students, that student group, when they refer to the book burnings in Germania, they're talking about these guys, and the books that these guys were burning were the records and propaganda writings of Magnus Hirschfeld. If you're on the right and you support our greatest ally, but you've got lots of problems with our cultural issues and perhaps a big problem with men playing in women's sports, we'll just put it that way, well, go ahead and trace that back to its origin, and you're going to find Magnus Hirschfeld. The same as you're going to find most of the cultural issues that you have a problem with, those trace their origins back to the very people who you support if you are a diehard supporter of our greatest ally over in the Levant.
Magnus Hirschfeld, an atheist, was the first homosexual and transsexual advocate of the 20th century, and also performed the first sex reassignment surgery. Karl M. Bayer, a Zionist Jew born in Germany, was the first female-to-male transgender surgery. Back in the United States, all the major lobbying organizations for transgenderism and child gender confusion is done by, you guessed it, God's not-so-chosen people. National Center for Transgender Equality, founded by Mara Keisling, a Jew. Transgender Legal Defense and Education Fund, founded by Gillian Weiss and Michael Silverman, both. GLSEN, or Gay, Lesbian, and Straight Education Network, directed by Eliza Bayard. TSER, Trans Student Educational Resources, founded by Eli Ehrlich. and Sylvia Rivera Law Project, a legal aid organization that advocates trans rights, founded by trans activist Dean Spade, both of which are...
Speaking of, I guess everybody's probably heard about this by now. I already had the majority of this video made when this happened, but yeah. First off, was this a clean pull here? Was this justified? Honestly, no, I don't think so. But sorry, we've already gone way past our normal point of morality here. There are groups of people that follow these guys around in every sanctuary city. Even with Nick Shirley's video, there's a segment in there where a chick's just sitting there screaming at the top of her lungs the whole time. And he's like, I'm just a YouTuber. I'm not with any agency. And he's actually explaining the corruption to her. And you see the light bulb almost comes on. And then she just starts screaming again. Sorry, but the Fraternal Order of Karens has chosen their side, and they're siding with the conquistadors. So it really sucks that this happened, and everybody knows that this was BS. Watch these guys over here to the left. This guy throws his arms up. They all walk away from that dude. They're like, no, hell no. So this reflected very badly on people that really are just trying to do their job here. You'll see them to the left there. They're both talking to each other through the truck here going, what the F, man? Frickin' Farva from Super Troopers just domed a crazy lib chick. Afterwards, her foot's on the gas. It went down about 50 yards and hit another car. None of them are even trying to walk down in that direction. They don't want anything to do with this. They know that this is effed up. And then, I'm not sure, but I think the guy walking back this way is the one that did it. And yeah, he looks like a class A-hole. And right now, everybody else is back there saying, who the F is this guy? He comes walking up. Oh, yeah, roll it up, boys. We're good. Everybody on the right dutifully repeats their lines here.
She was going to run him over. This is totally justified in every conceivable way.
So while I disagree and think that was excessive, I wouldn't fault him because she shouldn't have been there in the first place. I think they came from Colorado. And we've let this play revolutionary thing go on way too long. They're so brazen that now they're trying to block the streets, and then she guns it in his general direction. So I think he made a split-second decision. Watching from the outside, to me, it seems like the wrong decision, but she also made numerous bad decisions here. Unfortunately, she made all of these bad decisions in front of Farva. He was in this SUV up front here by himself. Those other guys probably never even met this dude before today. Either that or he's that guy. Well, he probably is that guy that nobody wants to be around, so he gets his own truck. Now, I've heard people saying that this is going to lead to riots and all this. No, it's not. You know why? Because she wasn't black. If you haven't figured it out yet, that's the only group that will actually mobilize and go into burn it down mode. And to be honest, I'm quite envious of that. I think all Americans should have made a big statement when they started locking everybody down in 2020. And pretty much what we've done is just shown them that we're going to let them walk all over us. The problem is, what do you go after that only hurts them and not just other Americans? So, I applaud the audacity, but burning down your local grocery store doesn't help things. White people are never going to pop off spontaneously like this. You'd have to convince them of some kind of plan, and well, they control all communications. So I'm sure you're going to see all kinds of get-togethers this weekend, but nothing's going to happen. It's just like the No Kings protest, a bunch of 50, 60-year-old white chicks out there. I was surprised how fast they mobilized over Venezuela. Here, all the same handwriting on all of the signs. This was the day it happened. This was like 6-7 hours after making it public, and they got all the professional signs over here and everything. This is something that needs addressed severely.
Trump's modern-day Gestapo is scooping folks up off the streets. They're in unmarked vans wearing masks, being shipped off to foreign torture dungeons.
When a governor is telling people that everyone's being taken off to foreign torture dungeons, then they need to be treated like they're trying to incite rebellion among the foreign occupiers. So, I hate that this happened, but next time, maybe don't do dumb shit. It's just that everyone's been treated with kid gloves on that side of things here for so long that they think they can do whatever they want.
So we'll have to agree to disagree on the first point there with Static. It actually doesn't bother me at all what that officer did. In fact, I want to see our ICE agents go even harder in the paint, and basically they've just got my full support. I don't want the surveillance. I'm not going to fall for that trick, but in terms of good old-fashioned boots on the ground, muscle, removing foreign invaders, they have got my full support. And if you are an American and you get in their way, you are a traitor and you don't belong in this nation. You're aiding a foreign invader. And I remember not too long ago, these liberals wanted us cut off from all resources, including groceries. Not many of them said it out loud, but the subtext of their behavior was very much a desire for us to no longer exist, so long as we refuse to comply with the group and put that needle in our arm. The thing that I feared, once they were willing to sacrifice that level of bodily autonomy upon the altar of compliance just to fit in with the group, that they wouldn't really have any boundaries after that, that they could be told to do anything. And that was realized immediately, because afterwards, the same exact leadership pushed for transgenderism and open borders, two very clear pathways towards self-extinction. So these people literally were willing to castrate their own children after the whole pandemic situation and invite foreign invaders directly inside our borders. And it just didn't surprise me, because I feel as though that was the high-level mind game that was really being played all along, was, okay, how far can we push these people? Can we convince them to basically walk off a cliff like a bunch of lemmings? And most people, they were just like, yeah, no problem. I'll go first. I don't even think these people should be allowed to vote anymore. And it certainly terrifies me that the leadership who was pushing for this was able to stay in power when they should have been put in prison. The fact that they're not in prison now, I mean, that's the biggest black pill of all for me, and probably the reason why I genuinely feel hopeless in terms of our government having any goodwill towards the people or towards the nation at all. But these people are still in power and existentially dangerous to the rest of us. So don't forget that. They didn't go anywhere. They're just waiting quietly in the wings for the tides to turn politically, and they will be approaching us with claws out. Now, I do agree with what Static said later, that as far as the blacks go, I respect the fact that at least they have some racial solidarity. I think that they're retarded in terms of how much they let the powers that be manipulate them, but I think that about my own people as well at this point. So whites aren't exactly hitting it out of the park in terms of seeing the hidden hand or displaying a very high level of awareness and personal agency. Whites are just as easy to manipulate as blacks, so there's no difference between us in that domain.
One other thing I've been wanting to talk about is Ian Carroll recently went on Tucker, and they decided to talk about this event. Now, I find the timing of this really convenient, just 2 weeks after the completely fake Australia thing, which was the exact same scenario as this event. Only that's not the way that Spiracy Inc. tells it these days. I've talked a lot about Conservative Inc. that got put into place, after 2020. They've done the same thing with anybody asking questions about anything. And Ian and Candace pretty well have the Spiracy side of things, where the algo sends literally everybody to those two. And it's funny how all of them just decided to skip over the Australia thing completely and not look at it at all, when I've shown all kinds of crazy evidence, but nobody else wants to touch it. And they decided to talk about an 11-year-old event just 2 weeks after that. He talks about how the sound was coming from the stage. He talks about how the windows weren't even open.
When they enter the room, they're looking for the window where this guy shot out of, and you can watch it on the body cam. And they go to the windows and they pull the curtains back, and they're like, nope, I have no broken window. No, it's not broken. No window. And they pull the other curtains back and they're looking, and they all are like, there's no broken window. There's no window.
So he lists all of the problems that there are with this, even the autopsy report taking years for that to come out, and then it showing that some entered directly down through the top of the head and this and that. And he's telling some stupid story about helicopters and this and that. But then watch what he says here. There's too many hot words. So what they've done is accuse these Spiracists of basically doing the Hook of Sandy thing, and they have straw-manned the journalism to say that what happened was that no one actually was harmed in the making of that they were all CAs. And he actually says that's evil for someone to suggest that. He says, you're claiming that no one was offed, and that is so evil. No, that was the whole point of everything. I remember the night it happened and the days following it. We had Live Leak back in the day. Remember that? The Wild West of the internet days. And there were all kinds of people standing there just saying it's coming from the speakers. And then you had vets. It was a country music festival. So there's a lot of veterans there saying, no, that isn't real action, let's say. And then I even watched a video of everybody running out of the area. You know, there was the like VIP concert area up front and then a larger area behind that. And when everybody cleared out of there, there was nobody left, claiming that this happened. But immediately after everybody filed out, there was nobody sitting there. But just like they've approved creators for Conservative Inc., they've approved these creators for Spiracy Inc. He's one of the main ones out here making all of this mainstream, and he's telling the exact opposite of what everybody was saying back at the time and what we knew. I mean, it was pretty obvious. So I find it pretty interesting they decided to talk about this 2 weeks after Australia and to specifically say in there that it's so evil someone would suggest that nothing happened. And his explanation of things is, well, in some of the films, you can see a helicopter in the background. Oh, okay. So there was a helicopter flying around doing all this, and everybody just thought it was coming from the stage and couldn't tell that it was coming from a helicopter. All right. All I'm saying is I have trust issues with all these people that have come up since 2020. That includes Tucker and the rest of them. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll catch you on the next one.
That's just a brief introduction to the Static in the Attic channel, and it's pretty lighthearted and jovial relative to his deeper dives historically. If you did find that interesting and you want to look at more of his work, I would recommend looking up a video that's a bit more spicy. Check out the title, Was This a Grey Retaliation for Shutting Down the Knights Templar? This guy has presented numerous ideas that have challenged what I thought I knew about history, but when I've gone and looked into his claims, I've found his logic to be sound, and his thoughts have served as a mechanism of refinement regarding my own views on history, and have been very, very useful as counterpoints to my own biases. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for watching, and if you made it this far, please like, share, subscribe, and drop a comment down below.